The most recent flashback that took place in the manga, it was Kuma's. It spanned from chapters 1095 all the way to chapter 1102, which consisted of 7 chapters. Looking at the flashback, I would say it has a legitimate argument to be considered the best overall flashback in all of One Piece. This is for a few reasons. Number one, it gave us more insight on Kuma's character. I can confidently say that with this flashback, it made me do a complete 180 of his overall character. I used to not really care much for Kuma, and now I can't wait to see what's in store for him for the rest of the story. And number two, I believe this flashback was successful because it wasn't just about Kuma. There were a lot of other characters that we learned more about, including Saturn, Vegapunk, Bonnie, Jenny, Dragon, and more. Plus a lot of other things happened already in the story, like God Valley, and then we learned the different interactions that Kuma had in God Valley, as well as the Straw Hats from his perspective. So in today's video, I wanted to go back and look at Kuma's flashback and talk about it today. But if you guys enjoy regular anime content, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out a new video. With that away, my name is Potential Unleashed, and let's see if Kuma's flashback deserves to be considered the best in One Piece. From jump, Kuma, as soon as he was born, he was a slave. This is because he was half buccaneer, because his father had that blood. Buccaneers, they are considered one of these special races because they have a lot of endurance and they're super strong. As a kid, Kuma, along with his parents, they were slaves. He lost both of them, but before his father died, he informed him that there would be a warrior of liberation that would save him. And I love this because it ties back into what Who's Who said about Nika whenever he was fighting against Jinbei. And during Kuma's time as a slave, he was brought to God Valley in order to participate in the customary manhunting game, and this is where Kuma ended up meeting Ivankov and Jenny. We find out here that Kuma, he participated in the God Valley incident. What we knew before this, and this is because Morgan's covered up a lot of stuff that happened here, and rightly so. I mean, if this got out, oh my gosh, the One Piece verse, it would be in shambles. We originally thought it was just Garp, Roger, and the Rocks Pirates, but boy, were we wrong. There were other individuals that were there, like the Holy Knights. There were slaves that eventually turned into the captains of the Revolutionary Army, and that makes the incident so much bigger than what the world government originally presented. The way that Kuma and the other slaves managed to escape was that they took advantage of the chaos that happened during God Valley. As I mentioned, the Roger Pirates, Garp, Celestial Dragons, Rocks Pirates, and the Holy Knights, also other pirates that are not mentioned, they all were here for a battle royale. This is because Jenny, she successfully sent a transmission about what was happening at God Valley, and the slaves, they took advantage of the prizes that were going to be given to the contestants who won the manhunting game. We don't exactly know what all the prizes entail because Oda, he didn't reveal all of them, but two that we have to mention include Kaido's Devil Fruit and Kuma's. Kuma, he ate the Pawpaw Fruit and he used its powers to send other slaves off God Valley, even with the resistance of Saturn. Kuma, he sent himself, Jenny, and Ivankov to the Sorbet Kingdom, and after Ivankov goes on his own journey, we follow the story of Jenny and Kuma. Kuma and Jenny, they are living in the Sorbet Kingdom a peaceful life, although they're living on the poorer side of the country. This is for a few reasons. Number one, they're kind-hearted people and helping everybody that's in need, and second, because King Bakori has essentially left those that are old, sick, and can't work for dead. But every Sunday, Kuma, he uses his powers to push pain or illness from civilians so they can work and pay the heavily tribute. And the reason why Kuma does this on Sunday is because the pain he pushes out, it won't disappear until someone accepts it, or else it will return back to those that he originally helped. Because he is a buccaneer, he is stronger than others, and he is more durable, has more endurance as well, so he decides to take the pain for others. It's not limited to just that. Kuma, he wants to change the world, and as he notices Dragon and his accomplishment of being a freedom fighter, Kuma, he wants to go out to sea and join the fight as well. However, because of King Bakori, more chaos happens at the Sorbet Kingdom, and Kuma has to intervene and is thrown in jail along with Jenny, Gyogyo, and others. Seeing all this injustice of what the Celestial Dragons do not only to his country, but he knows that this will impact others as well, Kuma, he wants to fight, and this is where Ivankov and Dragon, they end up freeing them. King Bakori is overthrown, and the freedom fighters turn into the Revolutionary Army, which now Kuma and Jenny are a part of. time passes, Ginny and Kuma, they become captains of the Revolutionary Army. However, tragedy falls when Ginny, she is taken by a celestial dragon back to marry Jua in order to become his wife. Kuma, he is pissed about Ginny's capture. He's running around ragged, constantly fighting, trying to distract himself from her capture, because we know the type of relationship that they had. We know that Ginny, she wanted to be married to Kuma. The only reason why they didn't end up getting married was because Kuma was concerned that the same thing would happen to her that happened to his parents, all because of his Buccaneer blood. We eventually got word from Ginny that she successfully escaped, but it was bittersweet because she was going to die soon. Kuma, he rushed to the Sorbet Kingdom to be there with her, but she dies with blue stones all of her body, and the reason why this happens is because she was exposed to the sunlight, doing this in order for her daughter Bonnie to survive. Because he cares so much about her and he's a kind-hearted person himself, Kuma, he vows to raise Ginny's daughter as his own. As Bonnie got older, Kuma, he is balancing taking care of her as well as his roles with the Revolutionary Army. However, unfortunately, Bonnie, she catches the same disease that Ginny had, and this unfortunately makes Kuma quit the Revolutionary Army because he wants to do all he can in order to be with Bonnie and protect her. Which, as a child, this is the age where they are curious, they go and make friends and interact with different people, but she can't necessarily do that as much as she would like because if she's exposed to the sun, then she'll die. This illness, it sucks because we later find out the name. It is called the Sapphire Scales, and it's incurable, and eventually Bonnie, no matter what he does, she will die from it. A lot of us wondered how Kuma got to become the king of the Sorbet Kingdom, and this is because of what King Bakori did. Again, I'm starting not to like this guy. He's kind of annoying. Kuma fighting against the injustice, it is known as the Solo Revolution. He then becomes king on the outside, where the former king Bulldog, he makes all the decisions, and Kuma is just a figurehead. During all of this, we also see Bonnie. She is running around as an older woman. She has the powers of a Dare fruit, the age fruit. Now, to mention, this part wasn't informed to us until after the flashback, but the reason why Bonnie has these powers is because Saturn, he injected her with some form of extract instead of her actually eating the fruit, so that's how she got her devil fruit. The reason Kuma leaves the Sorbet Kingdom is because once again Bakori, he is going to try and take back the kingdom, and Kuma, he wants to protect not only Bonnie but the citizens as well, so he leaves to go fight against Bakori. He becomes a pirate, which is now known as the Tyrant, and as he is on the sea, he's also trying his best to find out a cure for Bonnie. He then runs into Dragon again, who then informs him about Vegapunk could potentially cure her. They head to Egghead, and this is where Vegapunk confirms that he can indeed cure Bonnie. However, to do so, he asks that Kuma become the model for the clone soldier project that he's working on, and he'll waive the cost of the stem cell transplant, where Kuma agrees, and this is where the idea of the pacifista is born. Being in a government lab, Saturn, he overheard all of this, and in order to cure Bonnie, there are 3 things that Kuma must do. Number 1, he has to become a warlord since Ace defeated the previous one. Number 2, he has to become a human weapon for the Navy. And number 3, he has to give up his mind and free will. Although these seem rather harsh, Kuma, he is overjoyed and he accepts the terms without any form of resistance. However, and this is kind of dirtbaggish, Saturn, he adds even more stipulations than before, saying that Bonnie, she'll be a hostage and that she will only be freed once Kuma has lost his free will. However, Kuma, he says, hey, take her back to the Sorbet Kingdom and I promise you I'll never see her again. They agree on the terms, they get to work. Bonnie, she is working on getting cured while Kuma is being turned into a Navy weapon. We also see the interaction with not only Vegapunk but Senamaru and Kizaru, hence why these individuals are so close to each other. After she's cured, they go back to the Sorbet Kingdom, and this is where Kuma has to say his goodbyes to her because he now has to fulfill his role as being a warlord of the sea. Throughout the flashback, Kuma, he constantly was watching the Straw, specifically Luffy, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. During his time on the sea, he was constantly writing letters to Bonnie. However, she didn't receive it because the world government agent Alpha, who was in charge of Watch Her, she was constantly ripping up the letters before Bonnie received them. Since it's out of character for Kuma, the sorbet citizens, they start to question the legitimacy of what Alpha, if what she's saying is true, and this is when Bonnie decides to go out to sea and go search for Kuma herself. She defeats Alpha with the Nika-ish or Nika-like future, and she becomes famous similar to Luffy. I'd say that those two, Bonnie and Luffy, they're like two peas in a pod. The fact that they're essentially good pirates, that they do what they want, but in the end they end up helping the different people that they run into. I mentioned earlier that Kuma, that he was constantly watching Luffy. He monitored that there was someone who declared war on the world government. In the flashback, we got to see what happened at Sabaody and Thriller Park from his perspective, the respect he gave his crew, and Zoro willing to fight for Luffy. He saw Luffy punch Celestial Dragon and believed that he will be the man to save the world. He views Luffy as close to Nika as possible and believes that he can be someone that brings smiles to all and transform the sea. That's why he asks Vegapunk to allow him to protect the Sunny. And in the flashback, it ends with Kuma running in different phases of his life and all those that he interacted with. That Kuma, he's someone that never troubled anyone. Everybody loves him and will be sad now that he's lost his will. The perception that we had on Kuma was that he was some form of a tyrant, that he was a monster. However, it's the complete opposite of that. He is such a kind-hearted and caring person that he's willing to sacrifice his happiness for the sake of others. I've seen my fair share of anime, and there's been a lot of characters, I guess you can say, that have two phases. I think the one that stands out to me that's close to Kuma would be Itachi. We know his role with the Uchiha clan with Sasuke and how we hated him because we thought that he was a monster, but Itachi is one of the most kind-hearted characters in all of Naruto. Looking back at this flashback though, you could argue that Kuma, he has a decent amount of influence on the entirety of the One Piece story, because a lot of events without him wouldn't have happened. God Valley, it ends differently. The Revolutionary Army, they're definitely not as strong, and Bonnie, well, she wouldn't have been born because Jenny probably would never have escaped God Valley. The Straw Hats, they would have been killed at Sabaody, and much more. Because of how much you could say that Kuma's flashback connects to the entire story, I'll definitely say that this right now is the best flashback in all of One Piece. Let me know how you guys feel about Kuma's flashback in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video from me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. It's on the screen in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.